she gets 6 years over a voting error. A Memphis woman has been sentenced to 6 years in prison for illegally registering to vote due to errors made by state officials. Okay? She's a Black Lives Matter activist. Let's put up a picture. Her name is Pamela Moses. Pamela Moses is a Black Lives Matter activist, was convicted in November of registering to vote in 2019 while on probation for a conviction in 2015. The 2015 conviction caused her to lose her voting rights in Tennessee. But state officials knowingly conceded to a series of errors about her voting eligibility. Moses said she was not made aware of her eligibility. She said, and I quote, "They never mentioned anything about voting." Moses said about her guilty plea nearly 7 years ago. They never mentioned anything about not voting, not being able to vote, none of that. Remember, she pled guilty back then. They didn't tell her you'll never be able to vote again, okay? Election officials should have removed her from the voting rolls. That's one of the statutory requirements. But the court never sent the official documents, and Moses was never made aware that anything was wrong until she decided to run for mayor. She decided to run for mayor. Keep in mind what's happening here. You have a Black Lives Matter activist. She has had some unfortunate run-ins with law enforcement. She has redeemed herself. She has now become part of the change machine in her local community, and she decides to run for mayor. No one told her she can't do this. No one told her she's unable to vote, ineligible to register because of clerical errors by the court and then by the state. So she engages in good faith to run for political office. That's when election officials notified Ms. Moses, whose defamation win over a county official was overturned last year on a technicality, that her name could not appear on the ballot because of her previous felony conviction, and that they also discovered she had never been removed from the voter rolls. She went to court and asked the judge to clarify whether she was still on probation. And the court confirmed that she was, but Moses did not believe the judge had correctly calculated the time for her sentence. Moses went to the local probation office to get the matter sorted out. And an officer signed a certificate stating that her probation, in fact, was ended. And she then submitted that certification to the local election officials. This is a responsible person going through the process of correcting, providing remedy to the mistake that she believes has happened. However, guess what happened? After they signed the certificate, the next day, an official at the corrections department notified election officials that a probation officer made an error on the certificate and said Moses was still serving on active felony probation and was ineligible to vote. Let's put up a picture of the local prosecutor. Her name is Amy. Amy trumpeted both the conviction and the sentence. She told jurors that Moses knew she was ineligible to vote when she submitted the certificate. Wait a minute. She gets a legitimate certificate from an official of the government saying, "No, what, ma'am, you're actually correct and the judge is wrong. You're right based on what you said. You came to the probation office. We're gonna clear it up for you. Here it is, signed certificate. You're no longer on probation. Go vote, go run for office." Okay? She gets it. It's a setup. It's a setup. She gets the certificate. She brings it to the state. She files it. She continues to run. The next day, Moses maintained she thought her voting rights had been restored during sentencing. "I did not falsify anything. All I did was try to get my rights to vote back the way the people at the election commission told me and the way the clerk did," she said. But that set off the judge. Let's put up a picture of the judge, okay? That set off the judge. Mark Ward is his name, who was sentencing Moses, saying, and I quote, You tricked the probation department into giving you documents saying you are off probation. How in the hell do you trick? You can't trick no damn probation officer. So this judge, probation officers see everything. You can't pull nothing over on the probation officer. So this judge gets upset because the woman tells the truth. She says, listen, this is what happened. Here's the certificate. I submitted it. I did not know I was ineligible. Here's the proof of my process and why I thought it was okay. And the reason why this is important, ladies and gentlemen, is because based on the statute of their state, the prosecutor has to prove malicious intent. So you can't just prove the behavior, you have to also prove that there was intent to defraud. There was intent to vote knowing that you did not have the right to do so. Blair Bowie, a campaign legal center attorney, said, and I quote, "This seems absurd to me on its face. The instructions on the certificate of restoration form are very clear to the probation officer or the clerk. They say you would check these records and you will sign off on this based on what the records say. They're saying that she tricked the probation officer into filling this out, this form for her. That creates a really scary prospect for people who think they're being wrongly told they're not eligible." She got 6 years. 6 years. Maria, what are your thoughts on this one?
I kind of come down to the basics, which is that the state has spent so much time and money and effort to deny a black woman a chance to vote or a chance to participate in democracy. Even though she was participating in democracy as a protester, as part of the Black Lives Matter movement. But that in essence, what they have done is to deny democracy. And so when we're thinking about ways in which the vote, access to the vote is being curtailed, in which at every point, right, which is the essence of why we are losing our democracy as we speak. And then you think about the fact that they are so targeted. While you were talking, Rashad, I have to say, I felt like I was watching a Hollywood movie. Just like this crazy kind of narrative that it's just completely crazy that something like this would happen. And actually somebody should make a movie about this because it's ridiculous. And we have to, again, go back to the larger issue, which is the narrative about fraud occurring in our voting system is false. They have to have a scapegoat. They have to be able to show, and that's where this case comes in. This is the scapegoat. Even though they went through so many efforts to basically catch her, as you said, they set her up.
Yeah.
And there's just no way to, the whole thing about, well, there's so much fraud in the system and everybody's like, there's no fraud. This is the only way that they can hold up a case and say, you see, this is why. So I'm assuming that there will be an appeal, and I hope that she does not serve not one day.
Yeah, well, we got her back.
This is a horror.
We got her back, and let me tell you just one more irony of this whole story. If it's true that the probation office signed an official affidavit and it was incorrect, that means that they committed a crime. But the judge says, no, they were tricked because there's a good faith element that will create an immunity for the crime. So if you did it in good faith, if you filled out a false affidavit in good faith, you can avoid prosecution. She filled out a registration, which is an affidavit in good faith based on the damn certificate that she got from the probation office.